Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, had some fiery remarks talking to a radio show. This is a radio show, an interview that he's obligated to do because he is the owner and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Jerry was clearly very angry in this interview, and I'm going to read you exactly what he said. But before I do, just some general advice for Jerry Jones, because I'm sure he's watching this. Jerry Jones, you don't have to be the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. Matter of fact, if you don't want to lose part of your hands-on access, well, you're the owner. If you hire a real general manager, I'm sure you can still go to the meetings. I'm sure you can text or call them. I'm sure you could give them some of your thoughts, some of your advice. I know you could still wield, or at least attempt to wield, some of your influence there. They might not take all of your advice, but if it comes to whether it's personnel decisions, brand building, whatever it is, anything that's on your mind, if you own the team and you want to be hands-on, you can be hands-on. You don't have to be the general manager. So if Jerry Jones is looking for someone to be upset with, he should be upset with Jerry Jones, the general manager, because this Cowboys roster is not very good. They waited as long as they possibly could, hours before kickoff in the first game of the season, to pay Dak Prescott. Guess what? Now he's getting more money than any quarterback in the league, and Dak Prescott is not the best quarterback in the league. I understand it has to do with the market, but they could have paid him earlier and in turn paid him less, and they didn't. The same applies for CeeDee Lamb. They waited until Justin Jefferson got his contract done. They heard what Jamar Chase was asking for, and they just stuck around waiting, and they had to pay CeeDee Lamb more than they would have if they had signed him earlier in the offseason. They've got Micah Parsons coming up. There is a sneaky chance, depending on how bad the Cowboys are and how bad the contract situation is, they can't afford, or it's not in their best interest, to sign Micah Parsons. But that's a different conversation. Let me tell you what this man, Jerry Jones, said in his interview. Quote, "Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over the radio and sitting here and throwing out all the good out with the dishwasher, you'd have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not, and I really don't. And I don't even want our listeners listening to me talk about it. This is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over the reasons that I did something, and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job. That's not your job. Or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man. No, I'm not kidding." So let's break that down. So the radio host essentially asked Jerry what was going on with the team in a roundabout way. Just what's going on? How do you explain the 47-9 loss? Personnel questions, yada, yada. Jerry went on the ultra defensive here, said he doesn't have to explain himself, even though because he has put himself in the position of general manager and obligated himself to do these interviews, he does have to answer the questions. He has then threatened the man and said, "I will fire you because you are doing your job, which is to question my job when things don't go well." He has threatened him repeatedly, and I don't think I read it, but in the actual clip, if you go listen to it, he mentions 2 or 3 times. He says, "I will find someone else to ask me these questions." I think I only read that part 1 time in this quote. He said it 2 to 3 times. So he wanted it to be known over public airwaves that I am more powerful than you, and you need to bow down to me right now, or else you'll be out of a job. I can tell you that it's hard to find something that I respect less than a man or a woman who is so self-absorbed and removed from reality that they will threaten someone else's livelihood because they are upset in a moment. Jerry's not going to be thinking about this 10 minutes after it happens. But in that exact moment, the reporter didn't even necessarily criticize him. Just wanted to know, hey, what's going on? Jerry, this is your job as the general manager to field the most competitive team possible. When you lose 47-9 after making Dak the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, after having CeeDee Lamb make over $35 million a year, when you have stellar players on the defensive side of the football, some of which who didn't play in this game because they were injured, but when you've won 12 games in 3 straight regular seasons, when the most exciting part of the game day experience as a Cowboys fan now is going to see the billion-dollar stadium, not the team that's on the field. This radio host was well within his right to ask Jerry these questions. And you know what? Too many radio hosts and interviewers, reporters are afraid to ask the tough questions. Again, he did not attack Jerry. He just wanted an explanation, which Jerry is obligated to give him. And he didn't. He internalized it. No respect for Jerry Jones here. This is terrible. I hope the Cowboys lose. I don't know if you can see it. I am a Commanders fan. Now, I try to keep that out. I work in the sports industry. I am used to removing my bias and analyzing things objectively. I also just think I have a very analytical and logical mind. I'm able to look at situations. I'm able to look at numbers. I'm able to figure out what is going on, whether I like it or not. So take all of the bias out of it. I don't want the Cowboys to win another game. This, what goes around comes around. What goes up must come down. Jerry Jones, your ego's way up here. You got to come down, buddy. And hopefully the 47-9, I think the reason he was so angry was the 47-9 hurt him in his soul because it was his birthday, his 82nd birthday. I know he wanted a win for a present. And not only did the Cowboys not deliver on that, they got embarrassed on national television. So Jerry Jones, you need to issue an apology to this man as quickly as you possibly can. Not a private one, a public one. And then I want you to go on your next radio show and I want you to reiterate the apology over the air. I want the Dallas Cowboys to release a statement on behalf of their brand. Do it on social media, do it on your website, whatever, and say Jerry Jones apologizes for these comments. This, while not at the same scale necessarily, this is what you hear about in Hollywood, especially the music industry, the entertainment industry. You hear about these executives and these bigwigs who force people to do things they don't want to do. And I'm using that term very generally because that applies to a wide array of outcomes, some of which are in the news right now. I'm not going to talk about that. But you force them to betray their ethics or their interests or their livelihood, whatever it is, to service you just for a second. All this was an ego trip from Jerry, and it almost resulted in a man losing his job for doing his job.